Hi, I'm Paul from Test Data Services, and this video is all about LoadRunner Developer. The video is going to show you an install on a clean operating system. It's going to show you the recording of a script and then the running of that script in a 50-user load test, visualizing the results in Grafana because the results will have been sent in real time to InfluxDB. Now, this is a sort of test that's very easy to incorporate into any CI/CD system that you've got, and I think that you'll find this useful. I'm including all of the steps to go from a blank operating system, except for Chrome. I've already downloaded Chrome, all the way through to running a test. So just skip over with the chapters down below, the bits that you don't need to sit through. So what we're going to do to start with is download 2020. I've already logged in to the website, so it's now downloading. It won't take very long to download. Once it's downloaded, there we go. Let's show in folder. We need to unzip it or extract it, so we'll do the extract now. Now, while it's doing that extract, let's just set an environment variable. We need to have one environment variable to support the DevWeb protocol when it's standalone. You don't need to do this if you're installing LoadRunner like professional. So let's go to advanced, environment variables, new, and it's called DevWeb path, and we're going to set it to DevWeb. That's all we need to do, like that. And that's done. And now we have got our DevWeb code here. We're just going to copy this and we're going to paste it into the C drive, just like that. And once that's done, we've got our basic install. We've set our environment variable. Now we do need, though, to set up the C++ redistributable. So I will just show you that. I'm putting all these links in the instructions in the description below. Now we'll do the 64-bit and show in folder, run as administrator. Yes, I agree. And we'll also, so it's done, we'll also do the 32-bit or the x86. Oh, that one. Oh, there it is. Great. Run. Just a bit slow to download, but that's okay. Okay, so now that we've done that, if we were to open up a command shell, command prompt, and let's just change the settings here. Let's change the font, make it a bit bigger, and the layout, just make it a bit wider, 150 by, say, 50. And if we were to change to C DevWeb, and if we were just to look at what's in that directory, you can see there's DevWeb here. If we just type in DevWeb help, then it should give us help. That means we're good to go. We're ready to do a recording, which we will do very soon. Now, before we do the recording, we just need to download Microsoft Code. So let's just do that. Visual Studio Code. Let's get the system installer 64-bit. And let's show in folder. And let's run it. So this is very useful for editing files. Now, most developers are already going to have this or some other IDE, but I'm just putting this on a vanilla operating system, so you can see that I'm doing all of the prerequisites to be able to get the script to work and be able to run a test. Okay, so we now have code installed and ready to go, which is good. Next thing, we will fire up Chrome and we'll turn developer tools on. So more tools. We're going to get ready to do a recording now. Now, what we need to do is go to network, tell it to preserve log, which means don't clear out the log each time we change pages. Okay, that's good. I'm going to open up another page that's not being recorded. And I just need to do a few extra calls. Now, the business process we're going to use is signing up to a website, and it requires an email verification. So an email is going to be sent to the email address we use. We have to type the code in. So this is a proper production website. So if I go test data services, because I can't remember the syntax, and if I just grab this random person URL, and I'm going to paste it in here, and you'll notice it should record that. Okay, good. We can see get random person, so it's recording. That's useful. Now, the person that we're going to use for this particular test is Jose Taylor. Let's just copy this and let's put it into a notepad. I find it easiest to use Notepad for this type of situation. And let's get his password. I like to use password 4. I'll put a link up the top in ways to use this data. So these are persistent identities. There's 2.5 million of these, and it's quite useful. So it means if we want to log in again as this user after we've signed up, then we'll be able to, because we'll know what the password is by using password 4. Everyone's password's obviously different. And then the next thing we're going to do is we need to get ready to clear and catch emails. So I'm going to copy this link, copy and paste, and we're going to copy get most recent email link. I'll put another link up in the top right-hand side so you can see how this works. Make this bigger. Now I need to use the correct email address. So what we're doing here is we're clearing out a message, any messages for this email address, so that we can catch the email, the verification email. And it's at testdata.email is the domain, the from domain, paste, paste. All right. So the reason I'm doing this is I want the script that we generate to have these calls embedded in it. So we're going to clear out the email, and then we're going to check an email. Now there won't be an email yet, which is fine. And now we're going to actually do the proper business process. Now the business process, you'll see this in the description below, is to sign up to a website with this endpoint. So now for the email address, let's just type in the person's details, birthday. I'm not putting the correct date in. 1 Spin Street, gender, given name, surname, password. Let's use a password that matches. And now before I hit sign up, I'm just going to show you, if I go to copy this, now this is the AWS console for Cognito, which is where we're signing up. If I do a search on this user, no user found, right? And now if I hit sign up, I've now got a message saying an email's been sent to that email address, enter it to confirm. Now if I check, it'll say it's unconfirmed, and we can see that we put this in at 12:33:05 a.m. And they're the details we entered in. So now to get that message, the code, all we have to do is take this URL here, copy, paste, and the verification code is 101236. 101236, confirm, and we're done. Now, if we refresh this page over here, it's confirmed. And you can see it took us like nearly a minute to do that. When we run it with the script, it'll be much faster. Okay, so we've now got a business process. Oh, sorry, shouldn't have done that. So what we need to do is we need to download that or export the HAR file. So let's just call it rec, and it's .har. Let's put it in just into C colon. It's in downloads, that's fine. Okay, so now we've got a HAR file there, which is good. Now that HAR file is what we're going to use to generate a script for the skeleton of our DevWeb script for LoadRunner Developer. Now, the next thing we need to do is I need to actually just create a directory for for this demo, and I'll call it scripts, and I'll call this one demo 1. Okay, because we might do a few, we might only do one, but I'll just set that up like that. Okay, so we've got our demo 1 script, and I'll copy that HAR file into the level of the script level, not into demo 1 itself. All right, so now I will do the offline generator, it's called. Now, if I was to type in offline generator in our command prompt, you can see that it's giving us some usage information. I already know what my file will basically look like, so let's just paste that. Now, it's not in that directory. Let's just check that we're in the right directory here. C, demo, it's in scripts. So demo, scripts, demo, scripts, and demo 1. All right, so now we've created a script. Let's now open that script with code. File, open, and let's go into this PC and demo, scripts, demo 1, and it's main. All right, so this is our DevWeb script. So you can see we've got our get random person, we've got our clear message and our get message. Now I did those as preliminary steps, so I've got them in the script and I'm going to move them to other places. Then we have the sign up request, which produced that page, the form with all of the field spots for entering in the name and the birth date and so on. And then the next, then we've got a few resources there. And if we scroll down, then we do a confirm. And in the confirm, we're posting in a CSRF a username, a destination, and so on. And then we've got some query parameters as well. And after we have done that with the extra little CSS files and other web things, the last step we do, so that's the confirm step, and the one before that was the sign up. So sign up puts all of the details in, and then confirm re-enters some of those details but has the code. And if the code's not correct, it's not going to work. And that code has to be fetched from an email. So that's our foundation. So what we'll do now is I am just going to borrow some text so I don't use up all of our time typing in very slowly. We can put some transaction markers around to start with. So I'll show you what they look like. So the way we do a transaction in DevWeb is we say load and then transaction and then a name, and we set that to a variable, and then we start it, and then when we're done, we end it. So we do a stop, in fact. So let's put that stop in. And now when we make this call, we get a whole lot of data back in JSON format. So we want to catch that. We do that with something called extractors. So I'm going to copy these extractors. There we go. That's the extractors. So now we've got get random person, and we've caught the UID, email, address, password, given name, family name, and all of that. That's what we've got there. Now, the date of birth has to actually be entered into this form in a day, month, year format. So to do that, we need to actually have like leading zeros and all of that stuff in there. So I will copy that instead of making you wait through it. Just after here. So I'm taking those extractors, and if the date of birth day is less than 10, which means it has there's no leading zero in JSON numbers, it'd just be a single 9 if it was the 9th. I need to put a leading zero in there to construct that string with the appropriate leading zeros in days and months, and then I'm logging them. So you can see that log there. And then the next thing we want to do is start the next transaction. Now, the next transaction, though, is not that one or that one. Copy those out of the way. Actually, I'll cut them out of the way. I'm going to paste them right down the end of the script. It's syntactically incorrect to do that, but that's not the point. Then the next thing to do is we need to just get the CSRF from this next response. So we go up to request 4. So this transaction here, let me just make sure I started it correctly. No, I didn't. Name, I've got to give it a name. So I'm giving this transaction a name. I like to have in my transaction names a descriptor at the beginning, then a sequence number that is numerically sortable. That's why I like to have 0 if it's a 2-digit number to start with, so that if I have step 12, then step 12 comes after step 09, for example. So we're starting the transaction, and we're doing this web request, and the web request is going to present that page, and we need to grab the CSRF from that. So let's just go down and grab that CSRF, stop the transaction, grab the CSRF, and get ready to start the next transaction. Just saving some typing by doing it this way. So you can see here we're getting the CSRF. Now the way we're getting that CSRF is from an extractor. So we need to put the extractor in. Go here to the extractor. So the first extractor I showed you, it was simple JSON code, whenever you get a response back, you can just pluck off the values if they're at the top level of the JSON structure. That's very easy. But in this case, it's not JSON. It's actually embedded in the actual page. And there's a left boundary and a right boundary. So I'm looking for a left boundary of CSRF. I'm escaping the quote there, space value equals, I'm escaping it again. And then on the right boundary, I've got an escaped quote, so a quote. So everything in between that quote and this quote in the HTML response is the CSRF. All right, so we've done the second transaction. So the second one is where we're bringing up the form. And the next thing we need to do is clear out any emails so that in case that email address had been used already by someone else for this from domain, we want to clear that out so that we can, in the next few seconds, read that email. And also that way we know if we're reading a new email or if we're reading an old one. By clearing it out, we're definitely not going to read the old one. So to do that, I just need to take the recording I did. So we're at line 113 there. If I go right down the bottom and take this one here, which is the clear message, and cut, and then go up to line 113, paste, and just indent it a bit to make it line up. Now, so we can see that we're doing this clear message. Now, in the clear message, we need to make sure that we use the correct email address, obviously. And the email address that we're using, we extract from that first web response, which is that. And the way we've got that is it's web response 1, extract as email. So if we go up here, we can see this is web response 1 and it's extractors and it's email, which is this one here. So it's got the whatever is .email is what it's loaded into there. So that's that. And that's all it needed. The from domain's correct and the subscription key is unchanged. So now that we've done that, we just need to end that transaction and get ready to start the next ones. Okay, so let's copy that. Actually, won't end it yet because it's doing the CSS files, the JavaScript, JPEG. Okay, before we do the sign up, so we'll stop it. So we'll actually be running those things as if we're a browser concurrently. And we do the stop. Now what we're doing is setting 2 new transactions, submitting new user details and putting a verification code in. We're starting both of these at the same time because they're finishing at different times and we want to actually have the same start time for both. So we're starting both of them, and the next thing we need is to put all of this data into this request. So it's a post, and we'll go CSRF. So that we need to grab that CSRF that we had from before. So did I actually log it? I think I might have. Where is it? Sorry, up a bit higher. There's CSRF. Log here, great. When we run this, we'll be able to look at the log. Let's see it. So a CSRF is this, paste, and the username. Now I'm just going to, for the sake of things, because I've already done this, a dry run. Instead of copying and pasting all these variables in front of you, I'm going to just paste them like that because it's going to be faster. So DOB is date of birth that we've put together ourselves up higher up. Now the client ID stays the same. That's an OpenID Connect client ID. Those query parameters stay the same. And what we need to do immediately after that, though, is we need to end transaction 4 and, oh, actually before that, we need to add an extractor in. add this extractor in here. And what we're looking for in the extractor is we're looking to check we don't get a message coming back saying an account with the given email already exists. That's possible. And if that happens, we don't want to try and sign that person up because it's not going to work because they're already signed up. And now the way to deal with that is with an if statement. Nice, easy if statement. So I'm stopping the transaction 4. And if web response 5, go back here, that's web 11, let's just change that, copy. Web response 11 extractors account exists is false, then we're waiting for verification emails true, email latency 0, and maximum checks. We're going to check, we're polling really, we're going to poll up to 50 times for this value. And then we need to actually put that code in. So we'll do it in a while loop. And we'll go down to the bottom of our script here, and we'll take this, copy, or actually cut. We don't want that there. And in this while loop, we are doing the get message call. So this get message call, when we recorded it, it was for Jose Taylor. We need to obviously change that to use the appropriate email address. So let's just grab the email, copy, but everything else is the same. Paste. And that, if the message is there, we'll get it. Now we need to put some extractors into there. Now these extractors are going to be JSON ones because it's a JSON response. So in this case, we've got verification code with the left. Sorry, it's not. This is actually an email. Sorry, it's not JSON. It comes back as JSON data, but embedded in one of the JSON response fields is the whole payload of the message, the entire email. So we're looking in the entire response back, regardless of what JSON field it is, for the text. Your verification code is space, and with a right boundary of full stop. And when the text in between those will be the 6 digits of the verification code. So that's why we're doing that. And then we are also getting back, though, the latency. So the latency in this case from this return, that's returned from this get message call, it takes the amount of time from when we cleared the message to when that email was received in the back end in AWS. And as it's saving it to the database, it notes when it was received, and it puts a latency in seconds to 1,000th of a second precision into the field latency, so we can actually fetch that, and we do. So we want to actually save that and convert it into a transaction response time. So let's do that. So email latency equals 1,000 times web response 3 extractors latency, which is this one. And we want to log what the verification code is so that we can see it in the log. And now if the verification code is good, then we want to end the loop. And if it's not good, we want to wait for a second and then do it again. And if we've exceeded the maximum number of checks, we want to break as well. So that means that this will end that while loop. And what we also have to do is in here, back, if the maximum checks is greater than 0, so if we still had checks available to be able to do, then I know it's a dodgy way to do it, but that's the way I did it. Then we know that we're okay to submit a code. We haven't burnt through all 50 of our attempts at getting the code. So then we're going to start a transaction, and you know what? I just realized I should have stopped that other transaction. This stop here, make a whole lot of space. I should have done that stop after all of these CSS and other resources were returned. Let me just get them now. Fonts, CSS, PNG, not that one. Oh. Maybe not. Start again. CSS, JavaScript, CSS, 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 JPEG. Okay. All of these ones really belongs to the previous request. So we'll cut them and we'll put them up here. All right. So that means we've fetched that, all of those resources as if a browser had made that request, and all those resources are coming back. Then we are looking for the email response, and we're doing it the appropriate number of times. And then after we've done that, we can indent this. We can do our post. Now in the post, we need to put the CSRF in here. Post, okay, CSRF, there it is actually, it wasn't 4, was it? I have to have a look and see what it was. The username was definitely the email address though. The destination is sort of a masked one. I'll just put the same thing. Sub is for subject, which we'll use, it's up to us. We'll just use the UID of the identity, which is okay to use as a subject. And we don't have to really do the Cognito ASF data, but now we do need to put the code in. The code is verification code, like that. Now let's just check the CSRF. Find up, and let's just check that it's the right one. Yes, it is. It is the right one. That's fine. Okay. All right. So that means we've now submitted the verification code, and we want to check that that code is okay. So we want to put another extractor in to make sure that we've got a thank you for submitting your query type response back. And finally, if let's just paste all this in here. Query string right at the end, after all these requests, these web style requests. If that web response 6 extractors account created is true, then stop the transaction, and then we've signed up. I don't think it was called web request 6 though. Let's just go back. It's response 17, sorry. Now, we've done that. Let's see how close we are to the script working. So file, save. Now to run a script, what we do, so if we say DevWeb mode load, summary and to the console, and C demo scripts demo 1. Let's see. So start it off, one user, and I've got a problem already. Unexpected token, line 103. Okay. 103. Oh, it's not, it's a square bracket. Copy. Okay. So now we're running. That's looking better. And we're running through all these steps. And my gosh, it might have worked. Let's just have a look. Copy this email address. Laura Najox. Oops, sorry. Try again. Copy. And if I grab this one and put a email address in with that email, look at that. And you can see that we created it at 1:07 and 26 seconds, and we last modified it at 1:07 and 35 seconds. So that was 9 seconds later. So we did the whole sign up process in about 9 seconds, and it's confirmed. So that script worked, which is really good. So next thing is to actually run this as a load test. So we do that by updating file in the script. I'll show it to you. Let's just go into code, and in the directory we have here scenario.yaml. So if we open that one up, we can just say 50 users. Let's do pacing every 10 seconds. Let's ramp up over a 10-second period, and let's run for 60 seconds. And that's enough. Save. Now, if we do that, and now we redo that same command that I just did before, it's going to run that 50 user test. It'll ramp up over that period of time. When it's at full load, it will run for 60 seconds. Now, to show you that this is working, because we haven't got Grafana or InfluxDB set up yet, I'm just going to show you what the CPU is doing. So you can see we're not doing much Ethernet and not doing much CPU. If I hit enter now though, we'll see this actually does some proper work. So this is more than one user, obviously. So we can see we're doing 5 megabits per second of send, now 6. We're doing 70 megabits, 80, 90 megabits per second of data coming back. So you can see our CPU is working a bit as well as we're doing those transactions. And we even went to 220 megabits a second for a little while. So that's doing its stuff, which is good. So to make it so that we can make use of this, though, we want to actually get those response times and plot them and use them live. So to do that, we're going to create an InfluxDB database. So to do that, we need to download InfluxDB. So we'll let the test run. This is no need to stop it. So we go to download InfluxDB. No, I don't want to do that. Version 1.8.1 in this case. And we'll just take the Windows binaries and show in folder. You can see the test is now finished. We'll unzip. Okay, so I'm going to take all of, if I double click on that, you can see there's just a few files in there. So what I'll do is I'll copy this, I'll cut it in fact, and I'll just paste it in here. But I'm going to just change its name to just InfluxDB. Now in InfluxDB, we need to create a few directories and we need to change some config. So the InfluxDB conf file needs to be changed. So let's do that with code. Might as well. File, open, and C, InfluxDB conf. And in here, we want to change this to just really be C:\InfluxDB, like that. Oh, and we have to have a / there as well. Let's just do it like that. Let's double check, make sure it's right. InfluxDB all lowercase. Oh, we don't have two directories, it's just one. Glad I double checked. Like that. So there's a meta directory, there's a data directory, and there's a wall directory. I think they're the only ones we have to change, pretty sure. So let's save that, and now let's create those directories. New data, new wall, and then new new meta. All right, so that means that InfluxDB should be good to go, which is great. Now we need to get Grafana. Oh, we need, let's actually create a database though. So I've updated the config file. We need to start Influx. So we just do from a new command prompt, cd c:\InfluxDB, and if we just type in influxd, it's now running. So that's good. Next is to create the download Grafana. So let's go to Chrome and let's say download Grafana, and let's download the Windows version and download the installer. Yeah, let's do that. Show in folder, install. Okay, so we'll have Grafana running, and I think that this actually starts up the web server. I'm not sure if it does or not. Let's just have a look. Local host 3000. It does. Okay, admin is the initial password, and then we have to put one in. Let's just make it admin again. Okay, so now we have Grafana, and what we'll be doing is we'll be connecting this to InfluxDB shortly, but that's just sitting there and good to go. Don't need that anymore. Now for InfluxDB, when it's now running, we have to create a database though. So let's create a database. cd c:\InfluxDB, And now the command to create a database, I'm going to call it mydb, mydb. So we're creating a database. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit ahead of myself here. Let me just copy that, and I'm going to run the actual program in Flux for the CLI, and now I can paste it. And now if I say show databases, it's showing me an internal and MyDB. And when I created it with a 2-hour duration. So that's good. So having done that, I now need to tell LoadRunner Developer how to write to InfluxDB. So to do that, I go to the appropriate config file. Let's just go back to C DevWeb. Now, the DevWeb YAML file for, let's just find it, config YAML. What they suggest you do is make a copy of that and then call it local.config.yaml. Great. Now, if we edit that file, open, and DevWeb, and local config YAML. Now, in here, we can specify the database. Now, we don't want to send it to SQLite database, but we do want to send it to InfluxDB. And we want it to go to InfluxDB. So I can just put this in here, and it's not my host, it's localhost, and the database is MYDB, like that. So we've got port 8086 is the default port for a local install of InfluxDB, and the database name is MYDB. So that should be enough. If I save that, and now if I run that test, let's go back here and run it again. And now if I say show measurements, use MyDB, and then show, there we go, we've got some measurements. So having measurements in there is a good sign. So what it means we can do is go into Grafana and add our data sources, and we're going to do InfluxDB. And we are, in fact, doing that localhost 8086. And database is MYDB. And browser, save and test. Oh, failed to fetch. What have I done wrong? Might have like that maybe. Yes, great. So I've now set up the connector, the data connector. So now I can actually create a dashboard. So let's make a new dashboard, add a panel, and now because we've had some data come through, we can just say autogen, transactions, name, and let's look at the time it takes to submit a verification code. And well, actually, let's just refresh that. and look at the last 5 minutes. Duration. There we go. So this is the response times in milliseconds. Now we don't want to record that in milliseconds, so let's just do a bit of math. Select math, and let's divide that by 1,000. And save. So now we can see the response times are showing up as seconds. So let's run that test again. There we go. And if I refresh here, we'll see the data coming in as it's going. So these are the actual response times that are coming through right now, which is great. So we can do a bit more than that. Let's just enhance that. Like, you've probably all used Grafana, but just in case you haven't. So that's submitting verification code. What about if we add a new one to actually look at response time, transactions, name. Let's look at the email latency. Math, divide by 1,000. And let's save and apply that. Now we should have 2 transactions showing. Should do. Haven't yet. I've probably done something wrong. Let's just keep this test rolling here. What have I done wrong? Let's go back, edit. Duration. That's what I did wrong. Now we can see 2 different lots of transactions there. Now the other thing we'd want to do is we sometimes want to see, well, how many transactions per second are we doing? So to do that, we can look at transactions again, and where transaction name, let's just, it doesn't really matter which one we choose. Let's choose the submit, but instead of group by, let's make it group by 1 second. And let's, instead of doing mean, let's do aggregation count. And we'd choose duration, but it's not really duration. So now we can see how many per second we were doing. So this is here, transaction count is 9. So let's give it a name, submissions per second. And this one is email latency, and this one was submission. Save and apply. So, how good's that? I reckon it's pretty good. Let's make it a bit bigger so you can see it a bit clearer. So it looks like my camera stopped working, so I disappeared from the screen, but I'm back. So just to recap, we've managed to get a test running from a clean operating system install. You've seen the scripting process, you've seen a test run, you've seen the results come through. And if you zoom in on these results, it's very nice that you can actually see intra-second response times. So this was at 11, 25, and 54 here, but this response was 60 milliseconds past the second, and this is 160, and so on. So if there's a micro spike that lasts for 1/4 of a second and it only occurs occasionally, you can actually use this instrumentation type view to see where it's come from. You could also bring in all sorts of other instrumentation, whether it's X-ray or any other software that you can get extra metrics from, whether they're server-side or code-based instrumentation metrics. But basically, being able to view things in Grafana and have them saved in a time series database like InfluxDB really is a powerful thing to be able to do. And also the scripts that you develop and run in LoadRunner Developer can easily be extended out and run at a very large scale with the other LoadRunner products, and you can just run them directly. I'll do another video on doing just that. So I hope you found this useful, instructional tutorial style video, and I hope you enjoy using LoadRunner Developer. Have a great day.